expertise. And we are going to learn a lot about those legal issues of where the rights begin and where the safety begins. And I feel like some of the things that the city put in there, of course it wasn't the county, it was a city ordinance, but the county also has had to look at properties that we own that are not appropriate for camping or for long-term occupation, et cetera, and think about how we need to treat people as well. And I think that they are really keeping in mind the safety and health of the population in general. And I know there was something about backpacks. Well, if people remember the Atlanta Olympics, there was actually a backpack that was left in a park and exploded and killed somebody. So there's a reason for all those ordinances. I don't think that they go too far. I do think there's some judgment on the part of the police officers in how those are enforced. And I think if we can continue to have the police work with the protesters to keep that managed so that nobody gets hurt, that's going to have the best outcome.
Okay, Occupy Charlotte. I know you talked some things about them. They had like a pretty quiet type. What would you consider to be, what was their main motive?
Well, the Occupy movement, again, if I were a political science professor, I'd be writing a paper on it or something. Because it really varied in each city, and it varies. It's still alive and well. And it really relates to the nature of the issues in that particular city. And of course, Wall Street, a lot of anger over the huge salaries being made by some of the folks on Wall Street, even while the banks and the investment houses were brought to the brink of bankruptcy. And so I think, from what I've been able to tell in the Charlotte group, and I visited the Occupy site and talked to a number of individuals there, and there's sort of several categories of folks, but some of the main ones were people with a specific instance in their past or their employment history where the system failed them. And they didn't know, it was either the health insurance that didn't cover a large illness they had that might have almost bankrupted them, or it was an employer who didn't seem to be following the law and let them go, or treated them in a way they didn't think was appropriate, or something, or they couldn't get coverage for something. The system failed them in some way, and they just are frustrated because they couldn't figure out what their recourse was. They couldn't figure out how to appeal that decision or that incident or whatever, and so they're just frustrated with the system. It's not working for them. They're not part of the prosperity of the country. They're having a struggle making ends meet, so they're protesting. There are other folks who don't have a specific reason, but just in general feel like the average person is getting left behind. They feel like, they say we're the 99%. And the statistics bear this out. We have a country where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. No matter what the reason that you want to explain, just look at the facts. That's true. And so the challenge, I think, for policymakers is, if we think that's an issue, some people are fine. They just say that's the way that the world works, that the rich get richer because they have resources and the poor are going to get poorer. Some people think that you can't help that. Other people think there's got to be a way to help the safety net for the poorest so that they really don't fall through the cracks and get left behind and have absolutely no health care or nothing to fall back on. And that's going to be a challenge, is trying to figure out, why is there that disparity? Why is it getting worse? And how can we work together to lessen the frustration with the fact that that's happening, and to lessen the feeling of folks who feel like the American dream is no longer in their grasp. The whole rags to riches, what has made this country so wonderful from the very beginning is we didn't have a caste system, we didn't have a monarchy. It didn't matter where you were born, who you were born to, where you lived, what color your skin was. None of that was supposed to matter. It was supposed to be open economic opportunity for everyone. And that's what people are looking to be restored. That's what the Occupy movement, from people I've spoken with, that's what they feel is missing now. That they feel like there are certain categories of places you can be born, neighborhoods you're born into, where that dream is no longer available.
And with that, I mean, it sounds justifiable. Why don't a lot of people, why don't we back them up and support them? Because that seems to be an issue that a lot of people in this country faces. Exactly what you're talking about.
Well, and the other part of that is that there is work, there's good work going on kind of behind the scenes around precisely that. Doesn't get a whole lot of coverage because it's positive. But our community colleges are working very closely with our schools and with our companies to find those areas of industry that are growing, that need labor, technicians, machinists, certain places where they're hiring. And they're trying to match the people who need training with the training to get them into those positions. So there are people working to try to find ways to reach the folks who feel like they have no hope, to give them skills that can put them in a position to be self-sustaining and to have that comfortable American lifestyle that is the dream. But it's going on the edges, it's going on sort of quietly. It's not sufficient because funding is being cut. The state has cut funding to community colleges, it's cut funding to K through 12 education. And so those things that used to be what could pull you up, your own bootstraps, the things that could give you the tools, education, training, those have also been jeopardized by recent budget cuts. So it's happening. It's not happening fast enough, and it's great to bring more attention to it. So hopefully this show will help more people understand there's a need for that.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts, and we really appreciate that. Another topic is the city-county consolidation. What's the factors on that issue?
That's another one that could take about
Correct.
an hour, yes. Well, Charlotte and Mecklenburg, starting about 20 years ago, noticed that Charlotte is a huge part of Mecklenburg County. It's about 75% of the county. And even 20 years ago, it was about half the county. They realized that it would be more efficient to deliver government services if those services were consolidated. And so we used to have county police officers. Now we just have city police officers and town police officers. We only have one sheriff's office, covers the whole county. We have one Department of Social Services, covers the whole county, the city and the 6 towns. We have one utilities for the water services run by the city of Charlotte. We have one transportation system run by the city of Charlotte. So, but even though we have had functional consolidation, there are some who still think we could save a little bit of money, but also help government services be delivered more efficiently and effectively if we had political consolidation as well. And what that would involve would be the city of Charlotte, the 6 towns in Mecklenburg County, and the unincorporated area all being governed by one entity. Right now we have a county commission, and we have a city council, and then we have 6 town boards as well. So we have quite a few elected officials who are making policy for this one county. The idea of consolidation has, and actual consolidation has happened in cities around the country. There are quite a few. The most recent one I think was in 2003 or 4 in Louisville.
Correct.
And Nashville has done it, Miami-Dade. There are quite a few places that have recognized the same thing, that the city and the county were almost the same size. Why not consolidate, make it more rational, more efficient? And I think that the challenge here in Mecklenburg County is that the 6 towns in particular really like their independence.
Okay.
They like having their own zoning. They like having their own police department. They like that small town feel with the big town amenities right next door, but the small town feel of Matthews or Cornelius. Everybody knows people, there's a walkable downtown, and I think they're afraid of losing that. And so consolidation is something that can work. I think certainly we should study it and look at ways that we can help make things work better for more people. But we also need to recognize that there are different ways of doing it. And there are ways to carve out accountability, responsibility in those towns so they can keep what they think makes them so special and unique, and that is that small town feel. And I think some of the current concern the towns have is they don't realize that there is a model of consolidation that includes their being semi-autonomous. You know, they can be sort of semi-autonomous towns within a bigger county that may have one board. So the sort of conclusion is that we need to discuss it. We need to have input from everybody, unincorporated area towns, city dwellers, and figure out if there's a model that might work to help people feel like they're better represented, that their tax dollars are being used more effectively, but that they're not being swallowed up all in the identity of Charlotte. And I think that it is positive for Mecklenburg County that we have small towns where you have that small town feel, but in 20 minutes you can be in central Charlotte and go see all the great things up there and feel part of that big city experience at the same time. I think there's a way to do both. Is it going to happen this year? I think it's going to be a process. And I'm not sure if we're ready for the political part of it just yet. But there are some things that would make easier. For instance, it would make planning and transportation planning easier because you would have all the entities sort of talking around the same table.
We're running short on time. I know you just recently decided that you wanted to run for Congresswoman Sue Myrick's position. What was that ultimate reason for doing that? I mean, I know the whole. We all would like to know because we really love you and we're gonna miss you.
Oh,
we are.
I'm not moving anywhere.
Okay.
Well, I've had 8 years on the county commission,
Correct.
and I feel like that's a good amount of time. It's 8 years is what we give our governor and our president. You know, we've got term limits for them. And I felt like I had achieved a lot and wanted to find new ways to serve and new issues. Certainly as a county commissioner, I have worked quite a bit with our federal agenda. I have visited Washington. I've talked with our representatives quite a lot about things that impact us. For example, transit. The federal government is a huge part of our transit build-out. Many of the social programs that we have, Medicare, Medicaid, those are federal programs. And the county works with them to administer them. But again, the policy is driven by the federal government. So there are countless ways, health insurance, so many things where the federal government has an impact on our daily lives. And so it was interesting to me to look at these issues and to think about possibly serving in an area where I could impact those issues. I hadn't anticipated that Congresswoman Myrick was going to retire. And so it was kind of a sudden announcement and a sudden decision, but I'm in it.
We're running out of time. Commissioner Roberts, really appreciate you coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to watch this show, repeat this show, go to YouTube. Press in Paul Brown Show with guest Commissioner Jennifer Roberts. You have a blessed day. Thank you.